Welcome back, besties. Today, we're diving into a shocking unraveling that has Hollywood gossip blogs buzzing and Sister Wives fans absolutely stunned. Reportedly, Cody Brown, one of the most outspoken daughters of Christine and Cody Brown, has decided it's finally time to get real. And trust me, what she's been revealing lately feels less like a casual family update and more like a courtroom-style expose that could shift the way we've all viewed this family for years. Now keep in mind, these are alleged reports, claims made on Patreon, and insider whispers that fans are dissecting non-stop online. Nothing here is meant as a personal attack. This is about piecing together the puzzle and trying to understand what might really be happening behind the cameras. But besties, once we go down this rabbit hole, you'll see why so many are saying that the family dynamic has officially cracked open. It reportedly began when fans started noticing that Cody and Robin had been largely absent from key family moments, birthdays, visits, even tragic milestones. Cody herself admitted that the last time Robin and Cody truly saw her children was when the family gathered after Garrison's heartbreaking passing. That was it. Think about that for a moment. Allegedly, nearly a year and a half has passed without Cody or Robin spending meaningful time with Cody's kids, the very children Robin once called her babies. Now, rumors suggest that Avalon, Cody's daughter, doesn't even recognize Robin anymore when she appears on the show. Imagine that. Someone who once claimed to be like a grandmother figure, reportedly now erased from a child's memory. And when you put yourself in Cody's shoes, it's not just about distance, it's about what that distance represents. Broken promises? Abandoned roles? Maybe both. So I have to ask you, besties, do you think this was a natural drifting apart? Or something far deeper and intentional? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'll be watching what you say. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Cody wasn't always the silent observer. Allegedly, she was known as the rebel growing up, wearing tank tops, asking questions about faith, even exploring independence in high school. And in a world as strict as fundamentalist polygamy, that reportedly didn't go over well. Sources say this curiosity made her a target, criticized, misunderstood, maybe even controlled more tightly. And then enters Robin Brown. According to some fan accounts, Robin allegedly leaned on Cody, not for bonding, but for babysitting, for inside access, and for building a bridge to Christine's household. Some speculate it was more strategy than sisterhood. And here's the twist. Cody allegedly used Robin's relationship with Cody to his own advantage. Information gathering, emotional influence, call it what you will, but the whispers suggest Cody was caught in the middle of a game much bigger than she ever signed up for. This raises a question. Was Cody truly embraced as family, or was she being used as a convenient tool in a broader family power struggle? Now we can't ignore the emotional earthquake that followed Garrison's passing. Fans online have pointed out that Cody seems to have drawn a line after that loss. Reportedly, she distanced herself not just from Cody, but from Robin as well. And here's the emotional punch. Remember those moments when Robin called Cody's twins her babies? When she reportedly stayed with Cody for days, holding the newborns, claiming her joy was to be with her grandkids? Fast forward, and suddenly there are now 8 grandchildren in the extended Brown family, with Cody and Robin having little to no relationship with them. Some fans call it hypocrisy, others call it heartbreak. But either way, the contrast is glaring, and just when you think the revelations couldn't get more intense, Cody and her husband Tony drop what many are calling the ultimate betrayal, depending on which side you're on. They are reportedly completely anti-polygamy. Not quietly, not subtly, but openly, firmly, and unapologetically against the very lifestyle that shaped their childhoods. Tony has allegedly described it as a horrible life for women and a lazy path for men. And Cody herself, though conflicted about speaking too boldly, has agreed that the system breeds neglect, exhaustion, and emotional emptiness. Now imagine how Cody must feel hearing this from his own daughter. The system he built his identity around, now being openly denounced by the very children he raised. So besties, let me throw the question back to you. Do you believe Cody's stance is just personal growth, or is it a direct response to watching her own father's actions? One of the most emotional revelations centers around Christine, Cody's mom. Reportedly, when Christine needed help with her kids, especially during trips, Cody was nowhere to be found. Imagine this. Christine goes out of town, and instead of Cody stepping in to take care of truly Gwendolyn or Isabel, the responsibility allegedly fell on Cody. She had to travel back to babysit while Cody and Robin, who were right there in town, seemingly stayed away. And according to Mykelti, her dad didn't even visit during those times. Maybe a quick hello, a passing glance, but no real involvement. Fans speculate this wasn't just neglect. It was a clear sign of where Cody's priorities lay. So I'll ask you, besties, do you believe Cody was just overwhelmed? Or do you think this was a deliberate choice to prioritize one household over another? Now let's talk real estate and favoritism. Allegedly, when the family moved to Las Vegas and built those infamous cul-de-sac homes, not all houses were created equal. Reports suggest that Robin and Mary's homes were larger, nicer, and finished first. Why? Because Mary was the legal wife, and Robin was the favorite. Cody supposedly justified it by saying Robin had a newborn, Solomon, and needed stability first. But here's where fans raise their eyebrows. Christine also had a toddler at the time, truly. Yet, her home wasn't treated with the same urgency or investment. So the speculation swirls. Was this about logistics? Or about love and favoritism? Many fans suspect the latter. And if this is true, imagine the resentment it might have planted among the other wives and children. Not just a bigger house, but the symbolism of who mattered most. Mykelti's recollections also paint Cody as what some viewers now call a phone dad. Reportedly, even when he did show up at Christine's house, he'd spend only moments with the kids before retreating upstairs to sit on his phone. Think about the psychological impact of that. A child waiting all week for their dad, only to see him check out within minutes. That's not just absence, it's presence without connection. And Mykelti claims this wasn't a one-off, it was a pattern. Fans wonder if this detachment is why so many of Christine's children now openly describe their father as a stranger. But here's the question, was Cody emotionally checked out long before Robin arrived? Or did Robin's presence intensify the distance? On the show, Robin often presented herself as the glue of the family, the nurturing sister-wife, the peacemaker, the helper. But Mykelti's alleged accounts suggest otherwise. For instance, Robin reportedly never pitched in with Christine's kids when Christine was away. Instead of offering help, the burden fell to Mykelti. And when fans pressed about why Robin didn't step in, the explanation was always the same. She had young kids of her own. But besties, let's be honest. All the wives had young kids at one point, yet they still helped each other. So was Robin really overwhelmed, or was she simply unwilling to embrace the reality of plural living? The speculation is strong that Robin never wanted true sister-wife responsibility. Instead, she allegedly wanted Cody all to herself. And when you line up the patterns, bigger house, first move-in, Cody's constant presence, it certainly feeds that narrative. But maybe the most haunting part of these alleged revelations isn't just favoritism, it's what it means for the children. Mykelti reportedly shared that her dad didn't know his kids beyond birthdays and brief encounters. Imagine growing up with a father who saw you as a duty rather than a relationship. And when you pair that with a system where men allegedly lean on multiple wives to shoulder the workload, the kids can become more of a number than an individual. Expanding kingdoms instead of nurturing hearts. It's heavy, besties. And it makes you wonder, was polygamy the shield Cody used to justify his absence, or was it simply the excuse? As the courtroom grew heavier with tension, Cody Brown's demeanor shifted yet again. Gone was the polished confidence he had displayed earlier. Instead, he sat stiffly, his jaw tight, his eyes darting between the judge, the attorneys, and the small but determined audience watching closely. It was in this part of the hearing that the emotional core of the case finally surfaced. The testimony wasn't just about numbers, custody arrangements, or property disputes. It was about the pain, resentment, and betrayal that had built up over years, now spilling into the courtroom for all to hear. One witness, a close family associate, spoke about the strains of secrecy within the Brown household. They described how trust had eroded not overnight, but through a steady drip of broken promises and hidden agendas. Each revelation seemed to chip away at Cody's carefully constructed image as the strong patriarch. At one point, a piece of documentation was presented, an internal financial record that, if interpreted in the way opposing counsel suggested, could prove deeply damaging to Cody's credibility. Gasps rippled through the courtroom as the numbers were read aloud. Cody's attorney quickly objected, arguing context was being deliberately stripped away, but the moment landed with undeniable weight. The judge leaned forward, eyes sharp, signaling that this evidence could not be dismissed easily. It was not the final word in the case, but it shifted the balance of perception. Cody's legal team scrambled to redirect focus, but everyone could feel the tide turning. And then came the emotional punch. Testimony about family fractures. Stories were told of arguments behind closed doors, of alliances breaking, and of siblings quietly choosing sides. This wasn't just about law. It was about loyalty, legacy, and whether Cody had truly lost control of the very family he once ruled with certainty. For viewers watching from the outside, this was the moment when the courtroom became more than just a stage for legal maneuvering. It became a stage for truths long buried. And the unspoken question lingered in every corner of the courtroom. If these secrets were only now coming to light, how much deeper did the hidden conflicts run? The courtroom had grown so quiet you could hear the shuffle of papers and the low hum of the air vents. Everyone knew they were standing at the edge of a turning point. Cody Brown, once the larger-than-life figure who commanded the spotlight on national television, now sat waiting for a judge's words that could forever redefine his family's future. The judge cleared their throat, shuffling through a thick stack of notes, each page a reminder of the evidence, testimonies, and emotional storms that had poured into the courtroom over the past days. Cody's hands gripped the edge of the table, knuckles pale, his jaw set with forced composure. But his eyes betrayed him. Nervous flickers darting toward the gallery where family members sat, some offering cold stares, others avoiding his gaze entirely. As the findings were read, each sentence carried weight. The judge acknowledged the conflicting narratives, the tangled finances, and the fractured relationships. But one phrase stood out like a thunderclap. The court cannot ignore the patterns of concealment and misrepresentation. Gasps echoed across the room. Cody's face tightened, his attorney whispering hurried strategies into his ear. But there was no mistaking the meaning. His credibility had been dealt a devastating blow. Then came the matter of financial accountability. The disputed documents, which Cody had insisted were misunderstood, were ruled admissible. This meant they could play a central role in determining liability. For Cody, it was as if the ground shifted beneath his feet. His head dipped slightly, his shoulders slumped. But perhaps the most crushing blow was not legal, it was personal. When the judge referenced the breakdown of trust within his family, Cody's eyes glossed over. For all his public bravado, the realization was inescapable. His legacy was not one of unity, but of fracture. As the gavel finally struck, signaling a pause in proceedings, Cody leaned back in his chair, visibly drained. His lips pressed together, as though holding back words he wanted desperately to say, but couldn't risk uttering in that moment. The once commanding father figure now looked like a man cornered, stripped of control, wrestling with the collapse of the narrative he had fought so hard to preserve. The cameras outside would soon swarm him, hungry for a statement. But inside that courtroom, Cody Brown had been forced to face something far more painful than public scrutiny: the raw and undeniable truth. And the question that hung heavy over everyone present was simple, yet haunting. Was this the end of Cody Brown's reign, or the start of an even darker chapter? The doors of the courtroom swung open, and with them, a storm of flashing cameras and reporters' questions came crashing down. Cody Brown stepped into the glare, flanked by his attorney, but the confidence he once wore so easily was gone. His shoulders drooped, his expression was tense, and every step felt heavier than the last. For years, Cody had controlled the narrative. On screen, he had been the charismatic leader, the man who carried a complicated family dynamic with equal parts pride and stubbornness. But now, the spotlight was unforgiving. Journalists shouted over one another, "Cody, do you have any comment on the judge's remarks? Do you deny hiding money from your family? What do you say to the children who claim you broke their trust?" Cody kept silent, but silence can be louder than words. To many watching, it looked like a man with no defense left. Inside, the fallout was already beginning. Family members whispered to one another, some relieved, others heartbroken. For them, this wasn't just a legal fight, it was the public unraveling of a story they had lived behind closed doors for decades. The cameras only amplified what they had always known, that the fractures within the Brown family were deeper than anyone had admitted. One by one, statements began trickling to the press from those once closest to Cody. Some were vague, speaking only of truth coming to light. Others were sharper, pointedly referencing years of mismanagement and emotional wounds that could no longer be ignored. Each statement landed like a nail in the coffin of Cody's carefully cultivated public image. And yet, in the middle of this chaos, Cody's supporters, though fewer now, clung to the belief that he was being unfairly targeted. They argued that the legal process was biased, that the family drama was being twisted for spectacle, and that Cody was still, at heart, the man who had carried an extraordinary burden for years. But no matter which side people chose, one thing was clear. Cody Brown was no longer untouchable. The judge's words, the testimony, the evidence, it had all pierced the armor of control he had worn for so long. And in the court of public opinion, the verdict was already being whispered. Cody had lost more than just a legal battle. He had lost the trust, respect, and perhaps even the loyalty of the very family he had once sworn to protect. The gavel had fallen, but the echoes would be felt far beyond the courtroom walls. This wasn't just the end of a hearing. It was the beginning of Cody Brown's reckoning, a reckoning that would play out in the public eye, one headline at a time. And as he disappeared into the waiting car, cameras flashing around him, one question lingered for everyone watching. Could Cody ever recover from this, or had his legacy just been permanently rewritten? And there you have it. 5 gripping chapters of Cody Brown's courtroom saga. What started as a legal dispute quickly unraveled into something far more raw. A story of secrets, fractured loyalty, and the heavy weight of betrayal. From the shocking financial revelations to the emotional testimonies of family members, we saw how Cody's carefully built image cracked under the pressure of truth. The gavel may have fallen, but the echoes are far from silent. His silence outside the courthouse only added fuel to the fire, leaving the world to wonder, was this dignity or defeat? One thing is certain, Cody Brown's story doesn't end here. The legal twists, the family drama, and the fallout from these revelations will continue to ripple across headlines, interviews, and maybe even inside the family itself. So what do you think? Has Cody Brown's legacy been permanently shattered? Or could he still find a way to reclaim control of his narrative? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear where you stand. And if you've been hooked by this saga as much as we have, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, because the next chapter in this unfolding courtroom drama is just around the corner. Until then, stay tuned, stay curious, and remember, in Hollywood's most shocking stories, the truth is always stranger than fiction.